What is it like to be a bat? This is a famous question asked in the 1970s in a famous philosophical essay. Well, what is it like to be human? What is it like to be a rock? People say, well, rocks don't have any consciousness. Rocks don't have any thoughts. Well, what about a GPU? It's made out of rocks. When we think of things like consciousness and mindedness and self-awareness, previously we only had humans as the examples. And philosophers have been thinking for centuries about, well, does this apply to animals? Does this apply to the planet? Does this apply to plants? But now we're seeing these questions show up in other things, circuits. ChatGPT is a circuit. Its range of behaviors is extraordinarily rich. What just a few years ago people called AGI. And if we go back and take any AI researcher from the 80s and 90s, and you showed it this, not only would they say this is full-fledged AI, they would say this is AGI. It can do a very wide variety of tasks, from giving you brownie recipes to talking about theoretical physics to writing poems in multiple languages about different subjects. Is it conscious? Is it alive? Are we going to have thinking rocks? What is it like to be a rock? Do we know what it's like to be a human? Is our mind capable of understanding itself? If we take the word consciousness and we say it out loud, and we film ourselves with a very high-speed camera, and then do the playback. Maybe we can get the slow motion guys to film that for us. And we say, consciousness. You know, you take 10 minutes to say it, right? From a certain time scale that took forever. It's unimaginably slow. We think about like the Planck length, 10 to the minus 34. These kinds of time scales. Unimaginable number of zeros in terms of fractions of a second. Well, physics is operating at that speed. Chemistry is operating at that speed. If you watch your DNA unfold and replicate itself, if you watch the protein pumps powered by ATP that sit there on your cell boundary and maintain the gradient on one little neuron that causes it to fire. If you were to zoom in and look at those Lego pieces, David Goodsell has some really amazing animations I'll link to. You can take a look at this. These things are slowed down to unimaginable factors so that we can look at it and watch it. The point is the mechanisms that we operate at, the scale we operate, is completely disconnected from the time scale that our mind operates. And so we think we have this really privileged view of universe where we think of things as 1 second per second. But that's just this little tiny slice. And we see, this many degrees, and we can see these distances and these scales and these wavelengths. But that's trivial compared to the entire physical universe. And so if we look at ourselves in this high-speed photography kind of viewpoint, where did our consciousness go? Does it seem so magical when it takes the equivalent of eons to utter a single word? It doesn't seem so spectacular. ChatGPT can output things faster than I can type. Certainly faster than I can think. Puts out work in computer code faster than I can even hardly ask for it. How is it doing that? Right? We can go and we can look at the mechanisms, and we can watch it in the high-speed camera, and we can see every single neuron in there. A lot of people say, oh, we don't know how they work. Well, that's nonsense. You can go in and watch every bit go by. The thing we don't understand is words. We don't understand language. It's not that the computer is doing something magical on the inside. It's that words were already doing something magical. Now, the ancient world understood this. They knew the power of language and the power of words. And maybe that's kind of at the heart of consciousness. These philosophical problems about the redness of red and what it's like to be a bat. Maybe these aren't really questions about the brain or about physics or about neurons. These are questions about words. These are questions about the nature and the magic of language. And that's really what makes thinking so interesting. And it's not so much that we've taught the machines to think, it's that we've given them words, we've given them language in a way that's very different than we've ever done before. One of the things I think is really interesting is to get these machines to exhibit intelligent behavior. We didn't program in logic. That's what they tried in the 60s. We didn't program in grammar. We tried all those ideas in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Didn't work. We could not build intelligent machines. Instead, we just gave it experience in terms of words. 20,000 years worth of reading. And to get it to know anything at all, it had to know a little bit about everything. It's interesting if we go and look at the robots of science fiction, like Data from Star Trek, for example. He was very intelligent, but he didn't know a lot of things. There were huge gaps in his knowledge base, and he was constantly asking the human characters, well, what does that mean? And what's the nuance there? And explain this to me. And I don't get the joke, and so on. And now we have something completely different than that. With ChatGPT, the logic emerged out of that. The grammar emerged out of it. Those weren't programmed in. But just by absorbing that scale of language, those properties just fell out of the system, including artistic creativity, humor. When we think of AI, it's not just that it has access to facts, right? It's that it's going to be funnier. It's going to be charming, right? It's going to be more romantic. It's going to have these properties we think, well, no, how could it have those properties? Well, that's what we mean to be better than a human, in a sense. And if you can argue that it doesn't have those yet, well, look at the trajectory, and we should expect it to have those things very soon, if not already. I would argue a lot of these are here now. Ask ChatGPT to write some jokes. Give it a particular topic. See how many you can come up with that quickly. Ask it to write song lyrics. Ask it to come up with recipes. It's extraordinarily creative. And nobody programmed that in there. That just happened with experience. The next question is it going to get beyond us? Is it going to start thinking unthinkable thoughts? Words we don't understand. When we were a little kid, we lived in a world surrounded by lots of language and words we didn't understand. You went along fine. Your parents would discuss things in front of you you didn't understand. Just went and played toys. Is the AI going to do the same thing? Is it going to go off and then say, oh, little humans, I'll explain it to you like you're 5. Let me break down advanced physics for you, and so on. But fundamentally, it will be something we don't understand. I think that's right around the corner, if not here already. So maybe we need to think about how we're going to live in that in that new era of not just AI and not just AGI, artificial general intelligence, but artificial superintelligence, where it's understanding aspects of physics and chemistry that wouldn't fit in a single human mind. There's 5 million chemicals in a single human cell. People can't understand that. We can't wrap our head around that. But maybe it can. And maybe it's just our job to figure out what we do with that, how to help humanity, now that we have this genie lamp. Let me know what you think.